The Dr. Terri Show is presented by Evexias Health Solutions. Evexias Health Solutions is an emerging leader in the integrative medicine on a mission to positively impact people's lives through the transformation of healthcare. Evexias educates and trains practitioners on the new, innovative, integrative therapies that support a preventative care model that drives vitality as you age. You can learn more about Evexias Health Solutions and many of the healthcare topics we discuss on the Dr. Terri Show at evexias.com. That's EVEXIAS.com, as well as find a provider near you. Now here's today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Terri Show. It is cold and flu season. We've kind of been underway for a little while, but if that is something that is concerning you, today is the show you do not want to miss. I'm in the studio with Dr. Jim LaValle again. We're talking about all things immune system. Should I get a flu shot? Do they really work? What can I give my body or do for my body to help fight off colds, viruses, and even cancers? We're going to get way into the conversation. It's going to be great. Join us in the studio today. Hello.
Hey.
Happy 2025.
It is.
I'm back here with Dr. Jim LaValle, and I've had a lot of questions about this time of year, cold and flu season. I mean, there is some nasty bugs going around. I had one. I mean, I woke up New Year's Day and for 5 days, I was like, well, so I'm chomping down on all the supplements. But
right.
I get this question all the time this time of year, even from my own staff who know the answer I'm going to give them, but should I get a flu shot? Should I get a flu shot? You know, and so I kind of want to talk about that because people are interested about that. And then just talk about some other ways maybe we can help boost our immune system. But let's just talk about the immune system in general and how can we just ramp it up this time of year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the flu shot question, you know, it's interesting. I used to do national media on the flu every year. And it was always interesting because I'd look at the data and you would see that the flu vaccine that was generated very rarely met up with the flu that was actually out there.
It's
right?
always been my question mark.
So the you know, the likelihood of it really helping was probably pretty minimal because it wasn't really a good matchup. So the first thing that I always think about is, well, if it's not going to match up real well to help me, why am I going to take it? Right. So that's the first step. So I think that's always my first question. And then the second one is we really should be working more at how do we help our immunity so that our natural immunity can have a defense against it and then learn about that virus. And I think that's where we really, that's where we really fall short. And there's no doubt when you start to get into the elderly population where the top 5 causes of death, you know, flu is right up there. So, you know, if you're 85 years old and it's a good match, or if you've got compromised immunity for some reason, well, maybe in that instance you think about that. But for the average person, there's so much that they can do easy to help their immune system be resilient. And that's what we're looking for because it's not just fighting the flu this year.
It's every year.
It's every year because it's not going away. I got hit with the flu actually at A4M. I'm lecturing 19 hours. I'm overseeing 2 modules. As you know, I'm running around a little crazy at that event. So
December this last year?
In December, I got hit with that bug right beforehand. Now, the one I got was just the fatigue. I didn't get all the, you know, there were so many different bugs out, right?
GI,
the noro was out. There was a whole bunch
of
of stuff that was hitting. And so, I mean, I had to fight through, you know, 19 hours of lecture. And, you know, I took things to help me while I was there. I got through it. I did well. And, you know, I was able to recover and okay, great. And, you know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm eligible for my Medicare card this year. You know, I'm turning 65.
I love it. I got the AARP letter in the mail. You know, I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, you know, it's so funny because now that I'm at that precipice, right? You're at the precipice, 65. I'm getting 30 spam calls a day on, are you Medicare Part A or B, or do you need funeral insurance? I'm like, hey, come on now.
Get out of here.
I'm not ready for all this. Let me hit delete. I'm going to hang up on you. But I think it's so important that people understand that, you need to work. Your immune system is more than just, am I fighting a flu bug off too? Right. It's your immune system is why you age.
That's right.
Metaflammation leads to inflammaging. Well, what's that inflam mean? Well, the inflam is your immune system's ability to stay in homeostasis. Mount an appropriate response as you're aging, because we all know that as you age, your thymus gland wants to shrink. Mm-hmm. Hence the value of peptides like TA1,
thymosin alpha 1.
TB4.
It's coming back.
Yeah,
RFK,
let's hope, right? Because it's helping people, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so you've got to keep those aspects of your health resilient. And so I think, how do we help? Man, there's several things that you can do. And I think we just fall short most of the time because everybody gets busy.
Yep.
They forget about the value of core things they can do for their health. Sleep being number one, right? The craziest statistic I ever heard is if you only get 5 hours sleep a night, you're 9 times more likely to get a flu bug.
Yeah.
9 times more likely.
I believe that. And not only that, these viruses, there's so much data too around viruses being a huge origin of several cancers. Right. And so, I heard a physician speak one time. I was at this place in Switzerland. You probably know of it, Paracelsus Clinic. They do all kinds of alternative cancer treatments along with some traditional stuff. But, he was saying cancer is, our bodies are always fighting cancer. It's opportunistic, right? I mean, but you give your immune system what it needs and it can fight these things off. And also there's just common sense stuff too. Like, I coming from emergency room, I was talking to the crew earlier before we started. Bird flu, remember bird flu?
Oh, of course.
So I ran a report on how many bird flu diagnoses I made that season in the ER, and it was over 250. And I never wore a mask in the room. I never did all this crazy stuff, but I washed my hands. I did just the basic stuff, and I took a ton of vitamin D all the time, zinc, vitamin C. I didn't have these fancy glutathione LPTs that we're going to talk about and the immuno LPTs. But just some of those basic things and giving your body some of those basic antiviral nutrients is really, really incredible. And I kind of also want to talk, because I get this question all the time about ivermectin. And, it was such a political medicine for so long, but I think the truth is coming out that it's
exactly,
it works, it's safe. I've staved off a lot. If I feel a virus coming on, I'll start kind of popping ivermectin just because I learned so much about it during COVID.
Right.
And then ivermectin, so many people are asking about ivermectin as a potential cancer preventative. So what about some of these other medicines like ivermectin? What are your thoughts on that for virus and cancers and just immune function?
Well, I think, ivermectin, if you look at the literature, it's clear that it has some antiviral potential and it's good. And then there is this area of, cancer where we know that viruses trigger a variety of different cancers. And so ivermectin, I think, within
it's not going to hurt.
Well, one, it's not going to hurt. Two, I think let's let doctors and healthcare providers be the providers they are. And if they think it's in the best interest of the patient and it's that, hey, no harm and maybe help.
Right.
Well, let the provider be a provider.
Absolutely.
So that's my opinion. I think that, ivermectin proved itself out.
Yeah, it did.
And what more do we need? Right.
Exactly.
It proved itself out.
Yep.
You as a clinician saw it over and over again.
Yep.
And I think this flu season, obviously more and more providers are leaning into that and seeing that it has benefits. So, why not? And, I think there's a lot of things that you want to think about in addition to that are important for people. For example, the microbiome is super important. There are multiple studies showing that just taking a probiotic reduces the incidence,
I saw one just the other day.
severity, and duration of colds and flus.
Yep.
So, and obviously there, where's the harm in taking a probiotic,
Absolutely.
right?
So talk
Super
a little bit
simple.
about that. So first I want to throw out, you used a great word, one of my favorites, homeostasis, balance in the body. But the gut has been referred to as the second immune system, right? Also the second brain, but we're going to talk about that today.
Right.
So talk about that gut immune connection.
Super important.
Because I think if we're going to talk about immunity and preventing colds and flus and cancers, you got to talk about the gut.
It starts with the gut, right? You got 70% of your immune system is in the gut.
Yep.
It's housed in the gut. And if you're somebody that you're on PPIs,
Yeah,
you're
like
on
Nexium,
Prilosec, Protonics,
Yeah.
right? Any of those medications that are acid blocking medications throw off the probiotics or the microbiome in your gut. But there's a lot of other medications that do that as well. Oral contraceptives do that.
Advil,
corticosteroids do it. Anti-inflammatories do it. Even metformin, the darling of the anti-aging movement, it can throw off your microbiome in
How about
a
the
subpopulation.
GLP-1s? We seeing that yet?
GLP-1s, actually, they've shown in a few
positive
preliminary
effect, right?
studies that it helps the
That's
microbiome.
what I
So it's
thought.
actually a good thing. So, I think that, in general, you've got people that are on medications that are throwing their gut off already.
Right.
Then you want to put on top of that, what are you eating? Is your diet high in refined carbs? Are you eating a lot of sugar? Maybe you're eating too much saturated fat, because we know that when you eat too much saturated fat, that breaks down the microbiome. And so you've got diet layered on top of that. And then you get into lifestyle. So are you getting enough sleep?
Mm-hmm.
That can have an impact.
Stress has a huge
Stress
impact.
has a huge impact. Amazing how detrimental if you're not managing your stress.
So is that probiotic piece with the gut because of lipopolysaccharides primarily, or is it, I'm sure it's multifactorial.
It's multifactorial because, you've got things like glyphosate, right? Pesticides disrupt the microbiome. The big thing about lipopolysaccharides, which basically what happens is the good, the flora in your gut die off, they break down and they release lipopolysaccharide. And lipopolysaccharide's supposed to get filtered by your liver and your lymph, and then you're okay. But the problem is that you get overwhelmed, and now that lipopolysaccharide crosses the blood-brain barrier. Mm-hmm. It gets into your circulation. It attaches to different organs and tissues. And the big thing about lipopolysaccharide is it triggers the beginning of your inflammatory cascade. So it's almost like a universal key to turn on the inflammation process. So how does that relate to then immunity? Mm-hmm. Well, you're chronically fighting inflammation, and your immune system is always kind of burning and churning, and
it's working overtime.
It's working too hard. And now when you're affronted with, I got a bug, your immune system's like, hey, I know we got a bug, but I'm already kind of worn out. I can't fight this bug off.
Right.
And so that's where it comes into play, is that, your gut has a lot of reasons why things aren't going well. So everything from diet to lifestyle to stress to environmental exposure to the medications you're on, all kind of filter into that gut immune relationship. And you just have to remember, you can't say the word immune system without attaching gut to it.
Right.
Because it's your primary place that you develop your immunity. For example, there's a product I'm a big fan of. I love Kyolic. Kyolic aged garlic extract. I love that because it increases something called gamma delta T killer cells. And gamma delta T killer cells are the T killer cells that get out there and fight the good fight.
Yep.
And so that is a primary thing.
And as we age, we just lose those naturally, correct?
No, that's why, once again, not to go back into the peptides, but that's why peptides, I think, show their importance as we're aging, because we do lose our thymic capacity as we're aging. We do have a shrinkage
even
of our
after
thymus
puberty,
gland.
it just starts to shoop.
Exactly. Well, it's interesting because when I started out, and I started out a long time ago, 40 years in this work, and it was always popular to use thymus extracts. And I have to say that over the 40 years,
they work.
Thymus extracts just help people to build their immunity. They feel better.
Well, I have multiple stories of different autoimmune patients that I've used thymus and alpha-1, even TB4, but thymus extracts, and they're just incredible. And I'm hoping we're going to be doing a podcast on reintroducing some of these peptides in the near future. So a couple of things, so we talked about the gut. So an easy one, obviously clean up your diet, but just if nothing else, take a good probiotic, right?
Yeah, I think that's ground zero for most people. Probiotic and fiber. Fiber helps the probiotic. You need a probiotic.
We've talked about sun fiber. It's my favorite. I mean, I'd rather people get fiber from food, but the reality is, I know you laugh out loud. That's the reality is, are we really going to eat that much fiber? But sun fiber is great. Talk about sun fiber.
Amazing. Well, sun fiber is guar gum extract. And what's nice about that is the ease of use for one.
Yeah.
Right? You put it in anything you want.
Odorless.
Tasteless, odorless. Put it in water. Put it in your morning coffee if you want. Whatever. So that's great. But I think most importantly about it is people don't get GI distress from it. A lot of fibers you take, people go, oh, I can't take that. Gosh, that really
bloats me up.
Tore my gut up, right? Or I got
But
bloated.
To me, that just tells me you had a lot of bad bacteria in your gut.
Exactly.
Because you just fed the good bacteria, which killed the bad bacteria, which released a lot of gases. And I get that all the time, too. It's like, oh, I couldn't take that probiotic. It made me very gassy, and it tore up my gut. Well, that means your gut was pretty jacked up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right, exactly. So, the other thing that's interesting on sun fiber is that it really binds to endotoxin, which is basically another word for lipopolysaccharide. So it binds that up.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly important.
So people should be just taking that every day for prevention.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think it's, for me, if you're thinking about the basics of immunity and what you can do, probiotic and fiber, you mentioned something that's incredibly important. Yeah, wash your hands.
Yeah.
And I like people, they could do a nasal spray each day and kind of clear out the sinuses at the end of each day. Nasal irrigation, pretty good.
What are your thoughts on, I got all into the iodine nasal sprays. I was making them homemade, during COVID.
All that. Yeah, no, it's legitimate. It works. But even if all you did was a saltwater nasal wash, at the end of the day, it's going to help you on cold and flu season.
Yep.
And I think that's, once again, simple things that you can do. Watch your intake of sugar. We know that when you eat a lot of sugar, and sugar, people go, well, I don't eat sugar, but I drink a big glass of orange juice, twice a day.
I don't want to throw them under the bus. Yeah.
No, wait. You do need to throw them under the bus. Come on. I mean, that's what's good about this.
I had a patient that was doing an intake and said the same thing. I don't eat that much sugar. Well, what's your vice? Ice cream and cookies and milk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I heard ice cream was good for me, right?
Yeah, it's got like dairy.
All that. Lots of sugar. Yeah, no, but so I think, before you get into, what should I be taking? Fiber's simple.
What am I doing for my body?
Yeah, what am I doing for my body? How am I fueling my body? Super important, especially during cold and flu season. Getting that sleep is so important. People just minimize sleep.
We're going to do a whole show on sleep. We got to talk about sleep.
We could do a whole show on sleep. Yeah. It's really important. 60% of Americans will have trouble sleeping during the course of the year. They'll report insomnia, and that's a big problem. And then you get into, what nutrients? I mean, you mentioned, making sure you got adequate D and zinc and C on board. You got to have those.
Yep.
Vitamin C gets used up by your white blood cells when you get affronted with a virus.
Yep.
You use it up. So you got to get it back in you. And if you've got a good reservoir of it, because your body doesn't make it, it's one of those nutrients your body doesn't make, you should be taking it.
Yep.
It's super important.
My favorite are some of the powders. It seems like the ascorbic acid powders absorb really well. People are always saying, well, what kind should I get?
Yeah.
And vitamin C is pretty easy to get and get good forms of it. The problem with vitamin D, people don't take enough, especially when they're, and I had read a study way back, this is even before COVID, that 50,000 IUs of vitamin D for 3 days in a row will knock out a virus. And I kind of lived by that when I worked in the emergency room, and I really believe that's one of the things that kept me so well.
I could not agree more. I think you can acute dose that without a problem.
For a short period of time.
Yeah, and for a short period of time, right. And we're always checking vitamin D levels on people.
For sure.
But I love that you like the vitamin C ascorbate powders, because I agree. I mean, I found that over the years, by far, you get better absorption.
Right.
better utilization, easy to use. Again,
Right.
put it in some water, drink it. Super simple.
Yeah, and if you get GI, diarrhea from it, then back off on your dose.
Right.
Your receptors are saturated.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what people are always like. Well, how much do I take? Well, probably about 2,000 when you're sick, at least. Sometimes 4,000.
Absolutely.
Or I saw one study showed just take it until you have diarrhea, then back out.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. It's that story. The rule I always went by is if you go to the point where you get loose stools, you get diarrhea, drop your dose by 30% the next day, and
you'll
continue
be fine.
on.
You'll be fine.
You'll be okay. And if it gets loose again, drop it down another 30%.
Let's talk about some fancier ones.
Okay.
Two of my favorites. First of all, before we talk about glutathione and this immuno T and even BPC, which we have now in this liposomal technology.
Right.
I wanted you to talk about the liposomal technology,
right,
especially as it relates to glutathione, because first let's talk about glutathione as a master antioxidant, why it's important, especially when you're fighting illness, which we are every day.
Right.
And is it important for somebody to take that every day? Is it something that you would just take in times of stress or whatever? So let's talk about glutathione and how it relates to the immune system, and then let's talk about the liposomal technology.
Well, I mean, glutathione is incredibly important to have every day in adequate amounts in your body.
Yeah, so especially with all the toxin exposure we have.
That's just it. I mean, the bottom line is when aren't you getting exposed to things, right? I mean,
if you're breathing,
we're not living in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
Let's just say that.
Sadly.
And so you need glutathione because it is one of the principal ways that your body is able to detoxify is through the utilization of glutathione. And then two other important ones, SOD and catalase, all important antioxidants that help your body to detoxify, but glutathione being the master.
Okay.
It helps with all methylation processes in your body. It helps your body fuel your immune system when you're under duress. The big problem with glutathione is, well, how do I get it in me?
And absorb, yeah.
And how do you get it to absorb? So, just taking straight glutathione for years, that's what people did. And we found out, oh gosh, it doesn't really absorb that well.
Not really doing well.
And then we moved to using acetyl glutathione. And acetyl glutathione did improve the way it absorbed, without a doubt.
In an oral capsule.
In an oral capsule, it would improve the way it absorbed. But then you go into using a liposomal technology, which allows you to absorb it even better. And you hear the term liposome, it gets thrown around really loosely. And, so with glutathione, the better we can get it to absorb. And, as a practitioner, I mean, you're as good as they get when it comes to hormones. I mean, you spent your life,
yeah,
it's the literature as good as anybody. Okay. Let's just call it for what it is. All right. It's okay. You got to have glutathione on board to protect against what's called the quinone adducts occur through the metabolism of your hormones, right? And why are the quinone adducts important? Because that's what leads to the potential risk of turning on cancer.
Cancer genes.
And so if you've got adequate glutathione, you're taking care of business in that regard. And so having that glutathione on board.
It's a major soldier in the immune system.
Oh, it's big in the immune system. It's big on your neurotransmitters and helping you make neurotransmitters. It's important for your immunity. It's important for metabolism. And so I think it's something, you asked, do you take it every day or do you take it when you need it? I take it every day.
Yeah, I do too. Now that we have the liposomal, I mean, historically, in the literature, it was always, really the best way to get it is IV, maybe IM, the shots.
Yeah, right.
But who can do that every day, right? And so that's why this technology is so exciting to me. And I'll tell you, I tell a difference. I can take that glutathione and it gives you energy. It feels like not caffeine energy, but it's like your brain is working. It's like things are just humming.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really sure what's happening there, but I love it. Maybe you can explain it. But it's so true. You need the glutathione for hormone metabolism and all the other things. But what would make people deficient in glutathione besides just poor lifestyle?
Well, I mean, if you don't have the precursors to making it, so if you don't get enough cysteine in your diet, so one, if you're vegan, a lot of time vegans don't get enough cysteine. So you need the amino acid cysteine, and then you need cofactors like B vitamins, folate, B2, riboflavin actually important. A lot of times nobody talks about the need for B2, and at the same time, B2 is absolutely essential to get that glutathione into the red blood cells and get it functioning. Yep. And then obviously folate, B12, I mean, those are all important, B6. But so the first piece, a good B complex is really smart. I mean, it just is. And, I think a lot of people don't realize I'll give you a good example again. Excuse me. How many women are on oral contraceptives? There's a lot of women on oral contraceptives. Oral contraceptives deplete B vitamins in a big way. And so getting that B vitamin source back in is important. Making sure you have the amino acids are important. And then if you're lucky and you don't have any maybe gene SNPs that make you difficult for you to make glutathione, then you can make glutathione. And the reality is because of the stresses of modern living, we end up depleting our glutathione pools pretty quickly. Fast. And I'm with you. I think, there's ways to get glutathione. You can do it by IV, but once again, you do it by IV. It's going to move through your body, be metabolized relatively quickly. Yeah. You're not going to get that sustained release. It's not like you can go and get even if you did it weekly, it's not going to give you the global protection you want. You want to try to do something every day where you're getting that pool of glutathione being replenished on a daily basis. Obviously, there's a few topical ones out there that are good. And once again, I find sometimes people have trouble remembering to do their spray and to rub it in. And so what was interesting is when this liposomal technology was developed, it was first developed actually to work for opioids and to work for cancer treatments, because that way you could reduce the dosage of the agents that were given and still be able to have an impact. But then this technology was able to be applied into nutrients and allow for nutrients to absorb. And I love that, you have a personal experience that you take and you chew up glutathione and you go, you know what, this glutathione really makes a difference. And it makes sense because glutathione helps make neurotransmitters. You're going to make more adrenaline. It's going to help you be more alert. And I think that's why you probably chew it up and you go, hey, you know what? Because I think you use a lot of brain power during the day.
I use a lot of
I think you do. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure you use a little bit of brain power during the day. And so being able to replenish those pools of those neurotransmitters, that's important. And so this glutathione is an acetyl glutathione. So you start with acetyl glutathione, which already absorbs better. And then you put it in this matrix of this solid state liposome. So why is this such a breakthrough? Liposomes are great. The issue is that a lot of times when you make liquid liposomes,
which is what's popular.
It's very popular, and they're great innovation. But even the FDA has said that, you know what, the issue with it is that the liquids tend to, the particles start to connect back together, and you create a bigger and bigger what's called particle size. And before you know it, it's no longer absorbable. Right? The interesting thing about the solid state liposomes is that you can keep the particles really small, like under 100 nanometers, and that crosses your cell membrane when it's under 100 nanometers. So you can get it in the cell. You can help with your redox potential, right? You keep the oxidative stress minimized within the cell. And it allows for it to absorb and do what it's supposed to do. And, it's interesting. The first time I saw this technology,
your brain had to have been going, we can use it in this, we can use it in this, we can use it in this.
It was an immediate thing.
Hence all of our line of liposomal.
Yeah, right. No, I did. My brain just kind of, it was that emoji, right?
Yeah.
Boom. You're and
mind blown.
Yeah, but it was when they showed me the electron microscopy and the fluoroscopy. So what they did was they showed the individual particles under electron microscopy staying separated. I was going to say they stay in there. And then they lit them up under fluoroscopy. So you could see that the particles weren't sticking together, they were staying small. And the other piece is that they stayed small, so it stays stable versus sticking back together over time. And that's where I think the real innovation is, why I'm so excited. Obviously, I'm excited about liposomal tableting technology. When I met the pharmaceutical scientist that developed it, he was one of these old school pharmacists, right? And amazing because, he kind of came out of the, what I call old school pharmacy like I did, where, we were learning about, organic medicinal biochemistry and receptor conformation. And, we're looking at all these different facets. We actually, part of our training would be, compounding. And as part of our normal schooling, right?
Not anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, it isn't anymore. But I thought that was invaluable. And it was so fascinating to just, see him take me down that journey of
that's cool.
How he developed this technology and then being able to apply it, and how we applied it. The first way I applied it, I was like, all right, we're going to see if this technology works. I hear you. Really cool. But, synapsin was the first area because we were using it as a nasal spray and had thousands of people using it. 86% approval rate in patients that were surveyed, which is pretty high approval rating. Like, yes, I'll buy this, continue to buy it. I feel a difference. But the problem was a liquid, it could only be a prescription. It could only be compounded. And it was kind of expensive to make. And I said, all right, let's see if this stuff really works. And so then we took the compounds that are in synapsin, ginsenoside R3, and we put it into this complex. And, it was funny, the first time it was coming off the conveyor belt, literally, the folks that were making it, so the pharmaceutical scientist and his son. Oh, no, he was chewing up more than one. And he called me up and he said, I feel like I'm a fighter pilot on my way home driving.
It's phenomenal.
I was so focused, and I was on point, but I wasn't jacked up. And I was like, okay, we're on to something then. And that's what really started to develop, looking at difficult to absorb compounds. So glutathione, really difficult to absorb. Another favorite, BPC.
BPC 157.
Really difficult to absorb. Curcumin, very difficult to absorb. I mean, there's a lot of different compounds that if we could get them to absorb, they can do amazing things in the body. Right. Berberine's another one.
Berberine another one.
0.3% absorbed when you take berberine.
A capsule. So berberine LPTs are coming. I'm very excited about it. And synapsin, I know synapsin is more, brain, but because we brought it up, and I think we might have brought it up on another show where we talked about brain health and memory and traumatic brain injuries. But synapsin, in my mind, is another one that everyone should be on, especially after a certain age. And it's just because you're throwing out a lot of cool, fancy words, but people know Korean ginseng and how it works in the brain. Well, this is the active, one of the primary actives, RG3 in Korean ginseng.
Right. And if I want to pull it back to the immune system and cold and flu, and we just heard of COVID long haulers and the risk of dementia, right? And a lot of people don't realize when you get COVID, one of the first things it affects is your microbiome.
Yep, your gut.
That's one of the biggest things.
Even in little babies.
That's exactly right. I think the most interesting thing is, and look, I like to look at the literature.
Yeah.
A lot of the literature pointed back to, well, it affects the gut. It triggers via the immune system neuroinflammation.
Yep.
And now when you have neuroinflammation, that affects your immune system.
Yep.
Because now your brain is now saying, uh-oh, we've got an inflammatory response. We need to turn on the immune system that's responsible for inflammation. And now you're back in that chronic state of inflammatory overdrive. And now, whether it's a COVID virus or it's another virus, your body is already working too hard.
Yep.
And now you can't respond the way you normally could respond to a bug. So I look at synapsin almost, it's a tonic. It's a tonic that's going to help you, because if I can keep those microglial cells, which are the immune cells in your brain, if I can keep those calmed down, that means I've got one more checkbox on the favorable side of how my immune system is functioning.
Well, your body's not having to take energy to focus on that. Any way, especially when we're exposed to viruses or bugs, any way we can help our body not fight this fight over here, so we can focus all the resources on this fight here, I think is going to be beneficial. So that's good. So synapsin also can play a role in immunity. Glutathione, of course. And then another one that's really cool is the Immuno-T. So talk a little bit about that, and that's what we'll wrap it up with. I love this. And when I got sick, I started chewing 2 of these twice a day. And I really believe I got well a lot faster because of these things.
We're getting pretty amazing results with that. So it's a green tea extract. And the amazing thing about this green tea extract is it's very high in what's called EGCG. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's almost pure EGCG. So
I didn't take one today.
You should do one of those, right? And and look, once again, go into the literature, and you can see that green tea extract has a very powerful effect on knocking out viruses. Yep. The problem is to take regular EGCG in enough of a dose, you get up into a couple thousand milligrams,
right?
And now you get GI distress.
Yep.
It doesn't feel so good, right? And so being able to compound it into the liposomal state, the solid state technology, now I can deliver that EGCG, get it into the cell, because that's what happens, right? You get a virus, it attaches to the cell, and then it starts to replicate. And then your cells are going, holy crap, I got a virus in here.
And I
need help. And so being able to get that EGCG delivered into the cell helps to fight that off by stimulating your immune system, your defense, and actually having, if you look at some papers that are very interesting, having a direct antiviral effect. Now, obviously, you can't make claims like that on a bottle because that's structure function claims is it would support immune health. But it's been pretty dramatic, even in people that have things like, herpes simplex 6, so they get herpes zoster or shingles. This is a big supportive help for that.
I've seen this, and they feel those, that tingling start to happen when they're about to have a breakout. They can knock it out. This works better than the antivirals to knock these things out.
I've had a lot of cases where people have already been on the antivirals and they're not getting over the hump, right? They're still experiencing that nerve pain that they're getting, and they're starting to get some eruption. And, they add this into the program, and all of a sudden, things are drying up. They're not having that nerve pain. And, before they know it, 48, 72 hours later, they're feeling much better. And so I think it really is a breakthrough way to help people.
In our clinics, we don't have call-in sick days. If one person starts to get sick, we're passing these bottles out. So let's just recap a little bit for practicality purposes.
Sure.
Cold and flu season, just some of the basics that people can go on Amazon and get, a good ascorbic acid powder, at least 2,000 milligrams a day.
Yep.
Vitamin D3, probably at least when you're sick, 10,000 IUs a day, if not up to 50 for 3 days in a row. That's really been shown to be beneficial for viruses. And then, of course, zinc. I'm always on the fence about zinc and how much to take, because during COVID, people were taking so much zinc. Then we had copper depletion issues.
Right.
But when you're sick, how much zinc do you recommend?
Short term, they can do 100 milligrams a day, no problem.
For what's short term to you?
5 days to 7 days,
and
no
then
big deal.
After that, it's what?
On 30 to 50 a day.
Yeah, tops.
That's
on the
all
higher end.
Yeah, 50 is the higher end. If it's a male and they need zinc because aromatase activity, right? That's one thing, but otherwise, 30 milligrams a day is plenty.
All right, so vitamin C, D, zinc, sun fiber, can't push fiber, and probiotics enough. Those 5 things you can easily get. Yeah. And then if you want to be extra, you can get, which I love, is the Immuno Tea from Evexias, who's our sponsor, ECCG, and then the glutathione liposomal technology.
Right.
Just adding those two is going to be amazing for viral protection. And of course, you can get a good B complex. That's important.
Right.
And then, of course, we didn't talk much. We'll talk another time about the Inflammex, which is a curcumin, but then synapsin. We've tied it into immunity. I'm so happy about it because I want everybody to take synapsin.
Right.
These are just phenomenal, and the technology, I can't even tell you how much. And I got to give you credit where credit's due, because I learned this from you, and you've been teaching it. We've been teaching it for a while, and life changing for people.
And I'll tell you what has been amazing. honestly, is the way the practitioners from Evexias have seen the benefit of it and are utilizing it. And that is the most gratifying part. And whenever I've designed products or I've worked with new technologies, the proof's in the pudding.
That's right.
Is it working? Because if it's working, then practitioners are using it. Because I don't know any practitioner that when the patient comes in and says, "Hey, that didn't work for me. Could you give me another bottle?"
Yeah, exactly.
that doesnn't ever happen.
And patients aren't going to probably buy them. And the other one that we talked a little bit about is BPC 157, which is a peptide that's made in the gut. But now we have this liposomal technology, and it's been really amazing. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you. And it's always fun. I always learn something from you.
I can't wait till the next episode.
We're going to talk about sleep.
All right.